There we go. Okay, so welcome everyone. So I am thrilled to be here and to share some games with you today. I got really interested in the subject of using play to learn for a couple of reasons. One, first of all, I like to have fun. We all like to have fun. Secondly, way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth in the mid-2000s, when I went off and did my Scrum training with Jeff Sutherland a gazillion years ago, I realized not long after the training, I actually couldn't remember a single thing that Jeff had said in the class. What I did remember, however, were the games we played, the activities that we had done in the class. And that's what really stuck with me. And that's where I started to get interested in using play as a means of learning, as a means of doing serious work. And since then, I have spent a lot of time sort of going in different directions, exploring how we can bring playful techniques into doing work, how we can use games and activities to help improve team communications, how we can use drawing and things to improve communication. I'm also a Lego Serious Play facilitator because I've discovered that when we use tactile things to help share our ideas, we have different conversations than when we just sit down and talk to each other about what's going on. And so I've expanded my repertoire so that I use a lot of different playful techniques for a lot of different purposes. For today's games, really the common theme is about creating It's about creating team relationships and sharing team responsibility. Those are the things that we're going to explore in today's games. So I think for the first game we're going to do is actually going to be a sitting down game. You're not going to be sitting down for that long. But what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you're alone at a table, please join another table. Ideally, groups of 5 to 8 are what we want. Hopefully at your tables there are still the pads of paper, because everybody at your table will need a sheet of paper. This beautiful paper from the Leela notepads will do just fine for this purpose. And what I'm also going to ask is for a volunteer from your table to come up and grab a handful of markers. Make sure you take back enough markers that everybody at your table will get one. You could also use a pencil, but it's more fun in color. Okay. And just a quick check in the room. Who in this room kind of feels inside, I'm really no good at drawing? I don't draw very well. Yeah, okay. It'll be fun. Trust me. Trust me. So everybody should have in their hand, you should be sitting at a table with another group of people, and everybody will need a piece of paper and a marker. Does everybody have that? Awesome. So what I'm going to ask you to do now, and this is the only thing I want you to do because I'm going to give out the instructions step by step, is write your name in the corner of the piece of paper, just like this. Okay? It could be in any corner, it doesn't really matter, but write your name in a corner of the piece of paper. Okay. Once you have done that, I would like you to pass the piece of paper to the person sitting on your left. Person sitting on the left, what you're going to do is you're going to take a look at the person who just passed the piece of paper to you, and you're going to use the whole sheet of paper. You are just going to draw the shape of their face. So it's going to look something like this. Maybe it's a little bit rounder, maybe it's a little bit heart-shaped, but just the outline, nothing else. Okay? Okay? So take a look. Okay. Okay, once that's done, everybody had a chance to look at that person? Pass that sheet of paper to the left. Yeah. So now, You should have the sheet of paper from the person sitting 2 seats away from you. And you're going to take a long searching look at them, and you're going to draw their eyes on this portrait. So just their eyes, okay? My hot professional visualization tip is make sure that eyes have pupils. Otherwise, people have kind of a weird stare. Okay? Excellent. Okay. Now that we have the eyes on, I bet you can guess where this is going. Pass to the left again. And you're going to take a look at the person whose name is on the piece of paper, and you're going to add their nose to the picture. Do they have a cute button nose, a big dramatic nose? Sorry? Okay, well, you catch up as soon as you get there. Okay. 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 Just a second. Okay. We'll just give it a moment because there was one table that was trying to just get the eyes perfect, and they took a little bit longer, so we'll give them a moment. In the meantime, you can admire the portrait that's beginning to come together. Okay? Okay. Excellent. Okay. Has everybody got a nose now? Awesome. Okay. Once the nose is on, pass that piece of paper to the left again. Take a look at the person whose name is on the piece of paper and add their mouth. Do they have a big smile? Maybe a bit of a frown? Add their mouth. Okay. Okay. We'll just give it a moment. People always want to get it just right. Okay. 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 Everybody got a mouth? Pass it again. And now we're going to add ears and a neck. So, ears and a neck. Okay. Okay, so our portraits are coming together, right? They're looking beautiful. They're beautiful. Okay, so as soon as we have ears so that we can hear each other and a neck, pass it again. Now comes the fun one. Add the hair. You can add hair. You can add beards. If somebody is wearing a turban or a headscarf, please add it now. So I'll give you a little bit longer because people tend to have lots of hair. Yeah. nose, mouth. Okay. Okay. Put the finishing touches on those long curly locks or that big bold mustache. I'm going to ask you to pass it one more time now. And now is where you can add any finishing touches. If the person wears eyeglasses and they're not there yet, add them. If there's jewelry, maybe you want to touch up the eyebrows, anything you think is needed to put the final polish on the portrait. Okay? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Okay, so let's get those finishing touches on. And it may be that you have your own portrait. That's okay too. You add your own details. Okay. Now, once that's done, now we are finished our work of art. What I would like you to do is pass the portraits so they get back, so that each person has their own portrait. And maybe just do a little bit of a gallery showing at your table. Hold up your portrait next to your face so everybody can see what you look like. Okay, lovely. Absolutely lovely. Okay. So, huh? Oh, wow. Just a second, I'm going to take... Oh, sorry, let me fix my phone. There we go. Open up. There we go. Okay. Actually, you know what? I am going to jump up on stage for a moment. Can I get everybody to hold up their pictures? Awesome. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I will come and take a special close-up of you. Okay. Sorry, I'm still learning my phone. There we go. Okay. Oh, you ladies are wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So, what I'd like you to do now is actually at your tables, in your table groups, I want you to have a bit of a conversation about what did you notice going on during that activity? What did you notice going on? How did you feel as you were doing this? Okay, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to have that conversation at your tables, and then we'll come back together. Teams of 8, and then, okay. I just want to check, there's a handheld. I love this. This is such a magical power. This is a great technique if you've got to get a big group of people together, which is if I raise my hand, just in case, because some people are looking at me like, what are you doing? If I raise my hand, if you see other people raise your hand, just you raise your hand, and that's a signal also. stop talking. It's a great way to bring a room back together quickly. So this is an exercise that I use all the time when I'm working with a new group of people, right? It's a great way to, first of all, when you're looking at each person in the group, you have to actually learn everybody's names and who they are, and it's sneaky that way. It's also fun. I mean, clearly you weren't enjoying it. The room was very quiet and everybody was very serious, right? It's a lot of fun. Did anybody feel a little bit uncomfortable during this? Like, why are we doing this together? People are shaking their heads. Okay, because actually I aim for a little bit of that sometimes. When you're bringing a group together to focus on a new activity, I want to push people a little bit out of their comfort zone. And drawing is one of those places where people are often like, I'm not very good at this. You know, somewhere along the way between being a small person when you drew all the time to being where we are today, somebody, for many of us, at least this happened to me, somewhere along the line in art class and school often, people got to, oh, you call that a horse? You're not really very good at this thing. And we stopped drawing, which is sad because it's a really important communication tool. But when we, you know, if I said, hey, let's sit down and draw each other, everybody would have been like, oop. And this is great fun. It's a great tool for bringing people together. It's a great tool for getting people to get to know each other. It's a great tool for sometimes for making people a little bit uncomfortable so that they're starting to pay attention to what's going on here. And this is something that we want to cultivate. For the next game that I want to play, this is just a really quick game to get people working together as a team. This game actually comes from a friend of mine whose name is Wade Stallman. I'll write the URL on the flip chart later. And he's got a whole pile of improv games and warm-up games that teams can play. Some of which you can play in person. Sometimes you can play with remote teams. This is one of the games that you can play with remote teams. It's really simple. I'm going to explain how the game works, and then I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to play with it. When I ask you to, everybody at your table, you're going to stand up, and you're going to turn back to back, because we're going to pretend we're a remote team. We can't see each other at all. And your task is really simple. As a group, together you're going to count to 20. One person is going to say 1, one person is going to say 2, one person is going to say 3, until we get to 20. Now there's only 2 other rules besides that. One is if 2 people speak at the same time, the whole group goes, ah, and you go back to 0. And the other rule is that everybody at the table has to have talked. One person can't just stand there and go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? Everybody at your table has to have participated. Beyond that, it's up to you to figure out how to accomplish the task. So now what I'm going to ask you to do is stand up, turn your backs, and once your team has successfully gotten to 20, have a seat. Okay. Yeah, turn your backs and figure out. Yeah. You guys figure out how to do it. No planning, just get going. We're agile teams, we move. Let's go. Don't look at each other, keep looking out. I didn't hear as many ahs as I already decided. Okay, that's where I failed because I gave you time to do that. What happened in one of the groups that went, ah, what happened there? Yeah.
I think one of the person couldn't hear the number and then they came up with a different number.
Yeah.
So continue to go.
Yeah. There was so much noise, couldn't hear the
So it
number.
broke the continuity.
Yes.
But then we nailed it in the end.
Yeah. Everybody got it. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, you started to say something? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So this is just a very simple example of a game that you could play even at the beginning of the meeting, just to bring everybody into focus. And that's where really short improv games like that can be very powerful, right? It's something that we can do very quickly. It's 1 or 2 minutes. And sometimes people are like, work is important. We don't have time to play games at work. It's 2 minutes. Get over yourself. The other thing that playing a game like that at the start of a meeting, or a quick word game, or maybe you're tossing a word around or something, is it helps people check into the meeting and create focus on, oh, okay, I'm going to forget the last thing that I was at, and now I'm paying attention to this word and this group of people. So just running a very simple check-in activity like that can help with this. Another way you can use a game like this is to explore how does our team communicate and coordinate. One thing I observed that was really interesting is I asked you to turn your backs to each other, and I saw a whole lot of heads swiveling, right? Like, it's clear that we're craving that kind of communication, that kind of additional information. And when you play a game like this, it can be a really powerful way to get a team talking about what are our communication patterns, what do we rely on to understand where we are together, how do we communicate, and maybe how do we make up for that, especially if we're working in distributed team situations, if we can't see each other all the time. How do we start to address that? Bringing in playful activities like that is sometimes a really good way to start picking at some of these things. Yeah? Virtually? It would be exactly the same as playing it up standing back to back. That's the thing. The head turning, that was kind of cheating, to be honest. Because if you're on a phone line and you can't see each other, or even if you're all on a video conference and you can see each other, this, if you don't spend that time coordinating before, which is not what you're supposed to do, by the way, this is actually a really difficult task. You can play this one virtually. You can play a lot of the word games virtually. Here, let's just play another really quick word game at the table before we move on to the last activity. And this is another one of those 2-minute ones. Anybody can say any
They're coming with their online version. No, but then
Sorry. Cards? Everybody likes to have?
Synonyms related to
Conjugation is one type. Like gaming and lunch are not synonyms, but they are related.
So this was a really, really simple game. And to be honest, I hadn't planned, I threw it in on the fly. But
then you have to connect from the same point to the next.
yeah, it requires listening very carefully. And I can see a lot of groups were actually,
it's like
It requires listening very carefully.
but I could see a lot of groups were struggling with that. I could see just a simple time. Wait, what'd you say? Huh? What's the theme here? It's a really simple activity. Anything else you noticed about playing this particular activity? Anybody else have an observation?
Well, we started off with one set and I put a different word in, and so the next person struggled with what a connecting word would be.
Yeah.
I think my hypothesis is because they wanted to relate it to the original word and they couldn't.
Okay.
But purposely threw a wrench in and gave a different word, and that's something.
Yeah. So interesting pattern dynamic there of, sorry, I will not do this. You know, the narrative thread kind of, we're struggling to follow it. And so that tells us an interesting thing about our team's communication patterns, right? And I'm just going to say, when we're finding really simple, these are playground kind of activities, but when we find this a challenge, but we think that, oh, it's okay, we can sit down and talk about these really complex things and we assume everybody's on the same page and knows exactly what's going on, right? This is a chance to highlight that actually maybe we need to do a little bit more work about making sure we improve our common understanding. We make sure we improve how we are communicating within the group to make sure that we're bringing everybody along and we're sharing the same story. And just little activities like this are little tiny, tiny katas kind of that you can drop into sort of practice. How do we get better at listening to each other? How do we make sure that we are all following the same plot? And again, this is another game that you can easily play on a phone or in a virtual situation. It doesn't require being in the same place. So for the last game today, this is one that doesn't have any virtual equivalent that I can think of. And I'm trying to figure out how to do it because we have a few more people here. I think the way that this is going to happen is, what I'm going to ask you to do is organize yourselves into roughly 6 teams of 8. And if you're not on one of those teams of 8 originally, that's okay. You can stand to the side and be an observer, but you're going to also have a chance to play in a little bit, okay? So what I would like you to do is self-organize. I need you to be in a group of 8. And as soon as you have your group of 8, in a group of 8, just stand there, and then come and get a ball and the big long string. Okay? 1. You only have to do it once, just so you know what your number is. I'm number 1. Okay, what you're going to do next is you're going to open the loop. Yeah, just spin it. Okay? So that everybody on your... You know what? You have enough string here that I think we can... Are there a couple of people who aren't on the team?
We offer great benefits.
Okay, I was going to say, these guys have a big office. Yeah, great benefits, lots of space. To create a web here. So I'm going to come across. I'm going to hand your own. Yeah. Okay. And keep doing that because your web has to be able to hold your ball. Okay? So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes in your team to start passing and passing and passing. And I'm going to go talk to you.
Everyone holds their corner. Okay, just hold your corner.
Yeah. Okay, let's hold it with the ball on. Imbalance.
Okay.
What is the next instruction?
I'm just waiting for all of them. Perfect.
More balancing. Hold it in one hand. If you make a bigger
Move around a little bit in your area without dropping the ball.
कुछ कम हुआ है मुझे लगता है एक कम हुआ
Yes, yes, you will.
Okay, awesome. Everybody got the hang of that? We got our business up and running? Okay, so team member number 1, you're the rock star. 50% of the work and lead your team. I want you to pull your team in that, whatever direction you think the team needs to go. And let's see how that goes. Team member number 1, you take the lead. Team member number 1, you think you're the most important person on your team? You're going to take Okay. Nicely done. Number 2, you're tired of team member number 1's attitude. So you're going to kind of let go of the
So, team number 2 has to loosen the grip. What? Team number 2 has to loosen the grip. Leaves it. Loosen. Stop.
Okay. Now stop. I just want you to stop for a moment. Guys. I cannot do this. Stop for a moment. And notice the dynamics on your team. But I'm actually going to jump directly to the next one, which is team number 4. I want you to leave your team and join another team. You have to keep your ball in the air while this is happening. What I want you to do in your group right now is I'm going to give you 30 seconds or a minute, and I want you to talk about some of the dynamics that you've observed about how easy or how difficult it's been to keep that ball in the air with people pulling in different directions, with team members swapping in. Okay, I'm going to just give you a minute to talk about that, and then we'll do one last thing. Yeah. Okay.
Everyone has to move at the same pace. Can one person draw the line? One person, someone.
You know,
Let's try and support each other. So we go the work. Someone was alone.
Even in this conflict, that means also we are not losing and we are trying to That's a good answer. What happens when the new member So new members help us the end users, basically.
Yeah. That's when we need Scrum Master. The team couldn't see their own.
Thank God someone realizes.
Quality check. All right.
So not everyone's team. 2 team members have to have a hand on each rope. You got to carry it in your net. Yeah. Oh no.
Hey, do you need a hat?
Okay. 5 steps together.
5 steps together.
5 steps together.
All right. Okay, what's this side?
5 steps together.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Materials down and return to your seats. Is spending the time afterwards. So we're going to do really quickly debrief this game. I heard a lot of conversation going on during the game about some of the insights that this activity sparked. And what I'd like to do is hear from you a little bit. What were a couple of the things, maybe we can just very quickly hear 3 observations. What were the things that you observed about how your team was working? Does somebody want to share? Yeah.
Coordination and listening to each other.
Yeah, this really emphasized how do we listen to each other, how do we coordinate?
In the complex situations also I support my team.
Sorry, say that again?
In the complex situations also I support my team.
Yeah, it's how do I support my team? How do we listen to each other? Yeah.
It's also like you know that somebody is there in your team who can do much better than you. So you just give up your instinct and allow that person to do it better.
What I would like to dig into, but I'm not going to do today, is in that scenario where you had one person pulling harder and one person kind of gave up. What did that do to your team? And this is a way, this kind of activity you can use to have a conversation about, oh, well, how did it feel in this context when this happened? So how come we think it's okay to let that happen over there? What other observation? Oh my gosh. I'm going to go to this. Yeah.
When another person comes in our team, it's a new person, but
Yeah.
we rely on him, and we were playing the same. We didn't
lessen our pace and lots of burden on that new person we give, and that's
Yeah.
how we lost the ball.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a learning, like whenever someone new joins your team, just give the person a pace, a
Yeah.
place where he can learn how you are doing that, and then rely on it.
Exactly, and that's beautiful. So on that insight, I'm going to pause the conversation here because I'm cognizant of the fact that we ran out of time. But even the observations that have popped up now have served to show how you can use a really simple, quick activity to run like this. Ideally, you want to have about half an hour for this if you want to run through all the simulations. But you can use this to have a conversation in your team or in your organization about how do we relate to each other. How are we sharing responsibility for keeping that ball in the air, whatever the particular ball our team juggles in? And using play to have those conversations often helps you draw insights that maybe you don't notice when it's happening in the work, but it becomes really obvious here. Or because it's fun and because it's kind of silly this way, it makes it a little more comfortable to talk about these things. The dynamic that you mentioned about when we've got somebody pulling really hard and somebody letting go, that can be a little intimidating to talk about directly in the context of this is what I see going on in the work. But when we do it in a game, we can talk about that as a team and go, what do we want to do about that? How do we want to maybe handle that differently? And you know, we're all clever people. It kind of spills over into what we do maybe. So those are 3 simple activities that you can use to have a lot of different kinds of conversations with your teams. Just to give you the credits for that, the collaborative drawing exercise, I think you can go look up the instructions on tastycupcakes.org. The improvisation game, teamfirstdevelopment.com. Wade has a beautiful handout sheet of 3-minute games you can play with your team. The string game, if you Google on team responsibility game, that will take you to a write-up that I did that's on my website, and that gives you a whole range of scenarios that you might choose to run through with the team to try this out. So I hope you will take these ideas back to your teams and start to think about how can I use play to help my team work more effectively as a team. I also hope some of you will come back tomorrow, because at lunchtime tomorrow, I'll have 3 different games that we'll play. So thank you very much for your time and participation today. I very much appreciate you being here. And we'll see you over the next 2 days. You're very welcome. The second one is Team First Development. I, in fact, will go and write those down over here. No, we're good. We're good.
Thanks, Ellen, for this interactive session. I think it was really fun. Yeah, very much needed after lunch break. Yeah, so this is a good token of, small token of peace from Agility today.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to say, actually, we should take the picture this way, because these guys did all the work.
Yeah.
Do it this way, because